when I was younger, I thought, oh, I got to play all these big venues. I got to, this is where so and so played, so I got to do that. Just do what you're going to do and see where that takes you. That's my advice.
That's incredible advice that I feel I need to take because I'm like, I feel that way. There is a lot of pressure in the way that you look
For
and
sure.
and of course the way you sound, and it's so easy to just say, well,
Welcome to Ignite Your Passion with me, Bonnie Lang. Touring artist Aaron LaCombe is breaking ground with his new album. We talk about his journey and his inspiration. Take a listen.
Well, hello, Aaron. It is such a pleasure getting to meet you. How are you today?
I'm good. Out on the road, having a good time.
Fantastic. So tell us, so where do you live and where are you from?
Well, two different answers. I live in Kerrville, Texas, but I'm originally from just outside of Detroit, Michigan.
Okay. All right. So you're actually on the road touring. I can see are you in your tour bus?
Yeah, it's a Sprinter van that I kind of built out so that my dog and I could be comfortable on the road.
That's fantastic. And how old is your dog? He's adorable.
He's an 8-year-old Great Dane. Here, I'll let you have a look at him if you like.
Ah, he's got
He's a
droopy
great road
eyes.
dog.
He's just chilling on the
Yeah.
bed.
Yep. He's
So
a great road dog.
I see a lot of pictures with you and him. And so do you take him on the road with you? Or not on the road,
Yep.
but do you take him to your actual show? Does he
Yeah,
stay on
as a
stage?
matter, it sometimes not while I'm playing, but it's not uncommon because he's in a lot of my posters and stuff. It's not uncommon for people to call the venue and be like, "Is the dog going to be there?" So
Oh,
he's a big part of my thing, and often when I'm loading in, he'll go say hi to the venue owners or whoever, and he's a big part of my road life for sure.
what's his name?
Potter.
Potter. Hi,
Mhm.
Potter.
He sort of looked your direction.
So you're a singer, songwriter, touring artist. What ignited your passion for this career?
Well, I was fortunate to grow up in a house where music was real important. Not only did my parents listen to a lot of good stuff, James Taylor and Billy Joel, and I mean, just all over the place. Um, so I got I got I got brought up around some great stuff, and then my mom was a musician. She played flute, and so when I was in like the sixth grade, I was just sort of handed a trumpet and said, "Here, you play this now." And I did, and I got pretty good at it. But once I found a guitar, that was kind of it for me. And I've been in bands since I was 15 or 16, and it's really all I've ever wanted to do. I convinced myself to go to college and do some do a whole bunch of other things along the way, but it's all just been sort of detours on this road, you know.
Excellent, excellent. So then, did you have any other career paths, or has it only been music?
No, I have had a great many things happen. I at one time owned a bunch of restaurants, and they were all music venues and bars as well. And I would, my band would sometimes play at those. And then I currently own a company that renovates vintage RVs like Airstreams and Silver Streaks and all that stuff. And I do that when I'm home, but that's getting fewer and farther between.
So did you remodel? Did you say that you remodeled the van that you're in, the Sprinter van?
I did, yeah. When I bought it, it was a 15 passenger van, and now it has a shower and a bathroom and a microwave and a coffee maker and all that stuff.
It looks incredible, incredible on site. And if anybody wants to see it, you can go to my YouTube channel to see that. So how did that transition though? I mean, what made you decide to sell the your businesses?
Well, the restaurant thing was sort of there was some. It was in a small town in New Mexico, and there was some politics stuff going on that made it kind of weird. Like there was a tax thing that sort of split the town on this thing, and so it just got really competitive and weird, and tourism dried up because of it. And so the restaurants, everybody just started fighting each other, and it just got heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And so after a while, I just thought, I'm just going to move to Austin and live in an Airstream and just see if I can make this stick. And Austin is a very cool town, but it's not the best place in the world to make a living playing music.
No.
But I did. I got a band and fought it out for a long time before I realized that you've got to supplement that with being on the road. And so, I travel around 3-4 months out of the year and play shows all over the United States, and that's kind of what pays the bills.
So you've recently won 2021 winner of the Texana Troubador Songwriting Competition. What song did you submit for that? What was the song about?
Well, the competition involved 4 different performances, and I think they were 3 songs each. So it wasn't like you go up there and play a song or 2 and then they judge it. There were something like 25 entrants, and it was a Sunday every 2 weeks, and they would disqualify some people. And so for one thing, I strongly dislike songwriting contests. I think that'll maybe be the last one I do. It doesn't feel like something that should be competitive to me. It feels like I would have much rather sat down with all those other guys that I was competing against and just written some songs with them. I met some really great songwriters there, and I continue to play shows with them and all that stuff. But to get back on track to answering your question, whenever I do those things, I always make it a point to play the most recent songs that I've written, because I like to use it as a testing ground. And I think the song that put me over the edge was called Dream Along With Me, which ended up on this newest album. And keep in mind, this was just happening sort of at the end of, or what we thought was going to be the end of the pandemic, before like another, couple of things came along.
Yeah.
And it's a song about having somebody in your life that even when your plans don't work out, you can adjust and shift and make things work. And I think that just hit home for a lot of people.
Definitely. What really hit home for me is that Breaking Ground. And that's the name of your album that you've just released. And That's my favorite song on it. I listened to several of them. I didn't get to hear every single one of them. I didn't hear the one that you just mentioned, but I just love it. Love your emotion in it. I love the emotion that you have in all of your songs. What would you say is your favorite song, or even a couple of favorite songs off your new album?
On the new album, my favorite song is it's very clear cut. It's a song called Fluorescent Lights, and it's a true story about a friend of mine who was dying, who basically asked me to get him out of the hospital because he didn't want to die there. And I sat down to write, this happened years ago, and I sat down to write the song several times and ended up crumpling it up and throwing it away. And when I finally did write this version, it was just as I was finishing up the album. And so I had to I recorded it at my house and sent it off to the studio and said, okay, I don't care what we got to do. We got to get this thing on the album. And it turned out to be my favorite song.
Oh, that gave me goosebumps. Wow, I got to go back and I got to listen to that one more. What would you say your style is?
My primary thing I stick to is I like to tell stories. And if I can't, the one filter I pass everything I write through is this how I would talk in real life? Is this something I would say? I'm not going to intentionally make my lyrics more mysterious than they need to be, or more words I wouldn't use in real life. So I think what I would say is the thing that the thing that I admire in other songwriters and I try to do myself is just to make it about real experiences that people have had and can relate to, and not try to get too philosophical about it, you know?
Yeah. Where do you think you find the emotion too that you sing in the songs? Because I hear that. I can feel.
Well, I very, matter of fact, I can't think of a song that I've written that isn't based in some truth. And Breaking Ground, that was a funny song for me because I didn't really know what it was about when I wrote it. But later on, as I listened to it, I thought to myself, this is about giving up the restaurants and sort of, the money and stuff that went with that, and just sort of deciding to do what I knew I ought to be doing. And I didn't realize that when I wrote it, but I figured it out later.
Oh, I love it. I love that. So what is your process for songwriting then? I mean, do you write your lyrics first, or do you have the guitar or the melody, or is there a certain...
Most often I'll be doing something else and some lyrics will pop in my head. If I'm real lucky, it's a chorus or a theme that pops into my head, and then while I'm working or driving or whatever I'm doing, I'm sort of gathering thoughts, and I use my little notes memo in my phone if I'm in a place where I can type. But if not, I'll just use voice memo. And then kind of just as a matter of repeating that stuff in my head, it sort of ends up having a melody by the time, it might be days later when I sit down with a guitar. And so by that time, I might have sort of formed a couple of lines, and when I sit down with the guitar, I'll get those to where I can play them, and then I'll start forming ideas around there. But the iPhone has been a revolution. I used to carry a notepad around with me all the time, but being able to just talk into it when I'm driving down the road is fantastic.
So do you ever do co-writes, or do you prefer writing solo?
I do co-writes. I don't usually enjoy them, but I get cool stuff out of them. It's hard for me to not be the only person in the driver's seat. But I recognize that as a fault of mine. And there's a songwriter retreat in Lubbock that I went to. It's coming around again in August, but it was a couple years ago I went. And basically what they do is they send you to a building in Lubbock. It might be, so there's probably 30 of us. They'll put you with 2 other people, and they'll send you to a building that might be a bank or a school or some very weird place to write a song. And they'll say, all right, you 3 have 6 hours, write a song, and then you're going to have to sing it in front of the group tonight. And we did that for 4 or 5 days in a row. And then they kind of picked the best song. And boy, that was really a crash course in co-writing and giving up a little control, because if, you have to get it done because you have to sing it in front of people that night.
Yeah.
And I began to really love that, and got some cool songs out of that.
That actually sounds like an incredible experience.
It really is. And it didn't happen the last 2 years because of COVID. So I'm so thrilled to be doing that again. It's called the Buddy Holly Songwriter Retreat in Lubbock.
Fantastic. And then I'm sure it's also a great way to network and and hey, yep, you might find that click, that chemistry, and you're like, man, we got to, continue doing this.
Yeah, for sure. I still have friends from that first songwriter retreat that I talk to every week.
Oh, I love it. So then what is your day? Well, tell us what you're touring, when you're on tour. What does that typical day look like?
Well, this week would get any normal tour manager fired because I had a show in Nashville yesterday. Or was that? I guess it was, no, it was 2 nights ago. And then I'm headed to Roswell, New Mexico tomorrow to open for James McMurtry. Ooh. And then I have a show in Houston the following day. So nobody in their right mind would have done that, except that the opening for James McMurtry isn't a thing that you go, sorry, I can't drive out of my way to do.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've been on the road it's a 16-hour drive from Nashville to Roswell, and I'm halfway-ish there right now.
And so it's you by yourself, you and your dog.
A lot of times, yeah, I do have a girlfriend, and sometimes on these longer tours, particularly, she'll fly out and meet me somewhere, hang with me for a few days, and then fly back. She's got jobs of her own, so. But I'll wake up. Most of the time, I'll sleep. I can just plug my van in anywhere, and I've got air conditioning and all that. So I'll sleep at the venue, wake up in the morning, make coffee around 6, and head on out to the next place. And then I like to get there a bunch of hours early so I can go for a hike with the dog or a mountain bike or something like that.
Oh, that's incredible. It sounds like an incredible journey. I mean, and how does it affect your, relationship? It's great she can travel with you, but do you feel that it does impact the relationship?
Well, she is an incredibly unique person. She's real upbeat, and she's been so supportive about my music, which is, we've been together 6 years now or so, and I've spent my whole life looking for this person.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But if she knows that what I'm doing is for this thing that I love, she's fine with it. We just try to not go a week without seeing each other. And there's times I'm at home for a month, and it's great. And there's times where she's able to come out on the road with me for a week or whatever. But it's really, we make it work, and it wouldn't work if she wasn't the person that she is.
Oh, so she's true supporter. That
For sure.
It does make a difference. I've
absolutely.
been in relationships where it's just like you don't even feel, it doesn't even keep you inspired with what you love, but it's in your heart. But it's just hard when you have someone like pulling at you and not letting you, do your dream.
Exactly. Right. And we musicians and songwriters have enough stuff going on in their head. We don't need anybody else dragging us down. It's hard enough.
Well, speaking of that, imposter syndrome, like, do you ever get that? Obviously, it sounds like it. And how do you shake it off?
Usually when it'll rear up on me is when I'm watching another songwriter who's just brilliant. And what really gets you is the combination of when they just write brilliant lyrics, and then their voice and guitar playing are insane. And yeah, I'll go, okay, I can tell a story, but I can't sing like that, or I can't, play guitar like that. But then there's people that everybody's writing style is different, and it's tiny little things that make you relate to, this one artist, and there might be just bits and pieces in my stories that people prefer over the next. I don't know. It's tempting to turn it into a competition. And my head does that to me without my consent all the time, but I just have to turn around and go, there's room for everybody, and don't be mad at this person. Go write a song with them, or go, have them sing with you on something.
I love that. Or do other things. There's so many tools online to help you get better at your craft. And I love that. I love that. I think it's very tough in any artistic industry, where you're constantly being judged for your work. You're putting your heart out there, Right.
Yeah. And the stories I tell are very personal to me too. So if they don't land with somebody, sometimes you're playing a loud bar and you just don't connect with anybody all night, and that can get to you. But it is what it is. You just go down the road, and the next time you'll find somebody to connect with.
Yeah. Don't you even find sometimes when you think you're not connecting, they come over and they're like, man, we loved you. You didn't see any toe tapping, and it's like, oh, wow.
Right.
So you never know. You know what I mean? It's just that they may not come over and say it. So yeah.
Right.
So interesting.
What I try to do anytime there's a big rowdy bar crowd and it feels like no one's paying attention to me, I always find that there's a couple off in a corner somewhere, or one guy drinking Lone Stars and under a cowboy hat. And he is like, if there's a tiny little joke in a song, you'll see him chuckle or whatever. And from there on, I just focus on him, I go, this is going to be the only fan I'm going to get out of this. So I'm going to make damn sure I get him.
Yeah, I love it. I did that one night. Not too long ago. It was when school just let out and I had a show and there weren't really, no one was there. Usually the place is
Hmm.
already like packed. And I was
Right.
like, okay. So then I just started playing for this couple. The only couple, there was maybe one other couple in there at the
Hmm.
time. Then it started filling up. But they came over and they said, you know what? I loved it. And, we hadn't been out in a long time. And they were so gracious. They bought so much merchandise. It was crazy,
Oh, that's cool.
So it's just, you do it because you love it. It's in your heart. And I know I
It's so
can.
nice when people understand that buying merch, they may not even have a CD player, but they'll buy it because they know it puts a little gas in your tank. And t-shirts are great because you get a little bit of money, but then also there's, in your heart that t-shirt's out there walking around somewhere, and people might ask, oh, where'd you get that, or who's that.
Yeah. So this is actually, I've been getting goosebumps throughout our conversation. There's a song that you did that actually, it's called Uncle Carl, which was a 2019 New Mexico Film Festival nominee. And it has
Hmm.
more than 100,000 listens on it now, views.
Right.
And I watched the video and it's incredible. And it gave me goosebumps. And I wanted to ask you what your inspiration was on this song. Was it, something that was
um
happened in your life?
Sort of, yeah. I've had friends and family that have gone through both sides of that. And I wish my so when I originally wrote it, a friend of mine asked me to write a song for he did a Christmas songwriting contest. And there's not a whole lot of joy to the world in my music. It's not that kind of stuff. And so I was like, are you sure you want me to write a song for this? And he says, yeah, absolutely. So I sat down and I thought about some other great Christmas songs. Robert Earl Keen's got one that's kind of just about the awkwardness of getting your family together and how uncomfortable that can be. And it's just very real. Hayes Carl has a great Christmas song that's that same tone. And I thought, how could we make this more awkward? Like what what really tough thing could we deal with about Christmas? And I got to thinking about some friends and family who went through that, and I wrote that song. And ever since the first time I played it, people have come up to me crying and just said that's meant so much to me. And when the video got made a year later, I got this time of year I'll get a message a week saying, "Hey, I just saw this song and thank you so much." And you know, it's so nice to feel understood. And that song has been huge for me.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the video just really, yeah, it really just makes you think about it. I need to watch it
Hmm.
again, but yeah, it's really incredible. I don't see why it did not win. But I totally see why it was a nominee. It is
Well, thank you.
incredible. And so who are your influences? What artist do you think
Um,
you
my all-time favorite is Willie Nelson, and the reason is, a lot of stuff you hear on the radio, it's radio songs. It is what it is. But some of his deeper stuff is just very like him and his guitar and dealing with some hard stuff, talking in very real terms about some real stuff. And I've always admired that about him. And then you can expand out from there. There are guys like Guy Clark and Lyle Lovett and John Prine, and there's, especially in Texas, there's hundreds of those guys that are just writing the most cool, unique, bare bones reality stuff, and that's what I gravitate towards.
So who would you say that you sound like? Does anyone ever tell you, you sound like so and so?
Well, as far as like the tone of my voice, I don't usually get complimentary. Well, they may think they're complimenting me, but I've been told I've sounded like anything like from Nickelback to Creed or whatever, just because I kind of have that growl to my voice.
But I
Um,
love those bands. I know there's always like a kind of conversation about Nickelback or whatever, but I love
Right.
their vocals.
I have no problem with them. It's just not exactly how I think of myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, I've heard Pearl Jam. I've heard several people told me I sounded like Lyle Lovett, which there's no higher compliment you could give me. But you know, the Nickelback stuff sticks in my head too.
But I love it. Pearl Jam as well. You know, those are all
Yeah.
awesome, amazing
Yeah,
bands.
for sure.
So, what have you found the most rewarding about this path?
I love it when I am able to connect with somebody at a live show. You know that song I told you about, ambulance going by. That song I told you about my friend that was dying, and I got him out of the hospital.
Yeah.
I played that song in the last 2 weeks. I've played it and watched a woman openly weep in the front row of the venue while I was playing. And while I'm not super proud of making somebody cry, it's an honor to be able to touch somebody in that way.
Yeah.
You know, to have somebody listen so intently to your song that it brings them to that emotion. And to me, that connection, whether it's a laugh at a little joke in one of my songs or something like that, that connection that's what it's all about for me.
Oh, yeah. That's incredible. Oh, I love it. So what was a win that you were so happy about?
I gotta tell you, I'm pretty darn stoked about opening for James McMurtry tomorrow. That feels like a huge win to me, because I think he's the kind of songs he writes are not super polished up. They're real stuff about real life, and I like to think that people who come out to see him will like me too, and that's going to be a really cool thing.
So are you the one that books your shows? Do you?
I do, for the 99% of them, yeah. And it's my least favorite thing to do, but it gets a little better because once I play somewhere, I have no trouble getting back there.
Yeah.
But getting that first gig somewhere is tough. So now I've got a big enough. I'll play over 100 shows this year. And so now next year I'll call them and they'll be like, oh yeah, Aaron, sure. And it'll be a little easier to book, provided we don't have another pandemic that puts half of them out of business like we did, a couple of years ago. But yeah, I do all my own booking and I hate it. It is the worst part of my job.
Well, and then I'm sure, are you doing your promotion like on social media and?
Yeah. I do all that. I just recently, when I put out this album, hired a PR guy, and he's been tremendously helpful. But yeah, up until then, it's been just kind of me going at it, making all the calls, sending all the emails.
Yeah. Congratulations. How long have you been doing this?
A long time. When I was in high school, I was in a metal band playing shows around Detroit. And I'd get involved, start a business, and get sidetracked and get back to it, and then move to Texas and cut my hair, and it's kind of been 25 years or so.
And so transitioning from a metal band to, I guess you would say, Americana.
Yeah. That's easier than it sounds. In metal music, you're trying to write sort of these abstract, like, fight the power kind of like lyrics that are, it just wasn't me. I like to tell stories, and it just became, over the years, it just turned out that country and Americana music were just the best place to do that.
I love it. Love it. Love it. So what do you want listeners to know most about you and your path? And what if they want to do the same thing? What advice would you give them?
The first advice I would give them is don't turn around and get a real job. But if they insist, I would say just don't try to be anything. Just be you and see if that works, because most of the guys I see who are really struggling are just, they're looking on social media and they're doing, and that's a tough thing. You know, we talk about what it does to young girls seeing all that, you know, stuff on Instagram and stuff about how their bodies should look and all that stuff. That same thing happens to songwriters and musicians. Like, you hear somebody sound a certain way and you go, oh, I want to sound like that, or I wish I could do that. But I fiddled around with that for years and years and years. And when things really started to click for me, when I was just like, you know what? These are my stories. This is how I sound. You can like it or not like it. And booking is important too. You know, you don't book me to hype up your party crowd at a huge, you know, at a bar where there's like shots and foam and dancing and all that stuff. I'm not that guy. I'm the listening room or theater or coffee shop or brewery or, you know, that kind of guy. And when I was younger, I thought, oh, I got to play all these big venues. I got to, you know, this is where so-and-so played, so I got to do that. Just do what you're going to do and see where that takes you. That's my advice.
That's incredible advice that I feel I need to take, because I'm like, I feel that way. You know, there's a lot of pressure in the way that you look and
For sure.
And of course, the way you sound, and it's so easy to just say, well, I want to sound like Carrie Underwood, and, you know, and try to, you know, follow in her steps. But no, everyone has their own path. And thank you for that. That's
Well,
truly inspiring. Now,
you're
you
welcome.
have some shows. So you got a show coming up. This podcast will actually be released in August. And you got a show coming up in Bastrop, Sizzling Summer. So anybody that wants to see you, they can go out, or they can go to your website and find, because you're playing like New Mexico, you said, a lot of venues in Texas. So
And I've got shows in the next 2 months or 3 months. I've got shows in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Nashville, all over Texas, and then Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, South Carolina, all over the place. So if you go to, sorry, go ahead.
Tell us how they can find you.
We were on the same track. AaronLaCombe.com is the best way, because that branches out to Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. Instagram's a great place to follow me, because you get pictures of my dog every day, and from, you know, whatever weird little cafe I'm about to eat at here in Fulton, Arkansas. You know, and you know, but yeah, AaronLaCombe.com, it's got the tour schedule on there, and it branches out to everything else.
Excellent. And I'll include links in this as well. So
Awesome.
I guess one thing that I didn't ask you though is what do you find most challenging in this?
The booking is got to be the hardest part. It's not, I don't think anybody enjoys it, but I just really, really hate. I was never any good at paperwork, which is one of the main reasons I got out of the restaurant business and a lot of other things. You know, you got to send, I'm sure, you know, you send 100 emails and you might get, you know, 5 back. And then you're negotiating with these people. You're trying to make yourself seem like a big deal, even though that might not be in your nature, you know. Booking is really tough. It's by far my biggest challenge.
I can see that. I mean, I feel the same way. For me too. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I can't really think of anything except to say that now that we're sort of coming out of the pandemic and everybody's getting back to live shows, people seem to really appreciate live music more. And I'm finding more people listening, more people buying merch, more people doing all that. And I just really appreciate it. And I hope it keeps up. I hope everybody knows that when you buy a t-shirt or follow somebody on Instagram or do all that, it does more good than you know. And that's kind of what I want to put out there.
So y'all make sure you go follow Aaron. He's incredible. You're going to love his new album. And I just thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Oh, thank you. It's nice not to be in the driver's seat for a half hour.
This was so incredibly inspiring, don't you think? I want to say thank you so much for listening. The whole purpose of this podcast is to get you going, get you feeling good about yourself, and get you inspired about what really ignites your fire. Whether it's being the best mom in the world or dad, or just getting really fit, anything that you dream, you can do. You just gotta be showing up every day, in good days and bad. If you're doing what you love, if you have a dream, a passion that you want to chase, I'd love to hear it. If you're enjoying these episodes, share them with a friend. If you have any topics you want to discuss, please send me a message. And check out my previous episodes too. They are all so incredibly inspiring. I wish you peace, love, happiness, and hugs. And don't forget to subscribe. Have a great day.